Place. This meeting will take place fully remotely pursuant to the law signed by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which includes an extension until April 1st, 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Recording or taping notification is required by the open meeting law. We are informing you that the district will be videotaping this public meeting. In addition, if anyone else intends to either video or audio tape this meeting, they were required to inform the chair. And I would like to begin with citizen speak. Anyone? Seeing no one, we can begin with priority business, and I will, if I may, start with the chair report. Welcome, everybody, and Happy New Year. I especially want to welcome Joan Zukis, who is not here, and I am going to check and make sure. Nope. She's, I have to send an email to her Comcast. This is after our long discussions, her Comcast email. So I guess I will somehow do that.
I can do that.
Can you do it? Great. Okay, then I will save my welcome to her, and I will also save the next part of my report and jump to the expanded superintendent search committee report. We met the entire expanded committee, and we had the privilege of interviewing 7 candidates from January 4th through the 6th, 2022. That was last week. On Saturday, January 8th, the expanded superintendent search committee, by vote of the school committee subcommittee, selected 4 candidates to move forward for consideration by the joint school committee. The following candidates will participate in the next phase of the process. Dr. Sarah Ahern, a current superintendent of the Franklin Public Schools, Ms. Brooke Clenchy, the Nauset Public Schools current interim superintendent, Dr. Andrea Schwam, current Assistant Superintendent of the Wareham Public Schools, and Dr. Frank Tiano, current interim middle school principal in Dover-Sherborne Public Schools. The superintendent search link on the Nauset Public Schools website will contain the finalists' resumes and an updated detailed timeline once the site visit dates and times to Nauset are confirmed and scheduled. Selected subcommittee members of the expanded superintendent search committee and identified school committee members will make site visits to the candidate's current district on January 13th, 14th, 18th, and 19th. Candidates will visit the Nauset district on January 20th, 21st, 24th, and 25th, with a snow date on January 26th. These candidates will tour our schools and meet with students, parents, faculty, staff, administrators, members of the community, and others interested in the process. Finalist interviews will take place on the evening of Thursday, January 27th. It will be an open session at a joint school committee meeting. Final decisions will be determined also in open session on Saturday, January 29th at another joint school committee meeting. And I'll go back to the beginning of my report. I wanted to welcome Joan, and Joan, that's when I realized you weren't here, to the Wellfleet School Committee. Joan comes to us with at least 35 years in education, and is a wonderful, knowledgeable addition to our committee. We're really happy to have her. The other thing I wanted to do right now during this report, just to get it out of the way, would be to review our reorganization. When I looked over our notes, I realized we hadn't completed it. We were trying to do just what we needed to do for that time. I will let you know what I know and just shout, interrupt me if I've made any mistakes with this. The chair is Martha, the vice chair is Laura. Union 54 reps are, voting members, sorry, are Jill, Laura, and Martha, and the alternates will be Joan and Liberty. Martha is on the policy committee and the strategic planning committee. Laura, health and wellness, is that true? Yeah. Yes.
It is. But I did just get I got an email a couple weeks ago from Arlen, actually. I guess there is talk of combining health and wellness and behavioral, but I don't know anything from there. But yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. Liberty, you're our PTA liaison, I believe.
I am, except most of the time they meet when I can't meet because I'm not home till 4:30. So, I mean, I can do some of them sometimes, but oftentimes. So, and I got in touch with Charity, and so hopefully I'll be at least getting links to the meetings.
Okay.
But I just don't know I can go to all of them.
Well, if somebody wants to jump in and be an alternate, we're happy with that. I think that would be fine. Just let us know.
I can do that one probably if needed.
Okay. That would be great.
So yeah, Liberty, let me
Better
know.
be careful though. I'm just warning you. Take
Okay.
care. But yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. School council will be Joan. Mary Beth, I'm handing that over. I miss you already, but I am handing it over just in terms of time. And it's a great way to get to know the school as well. Transportation is Laura. Cape Cod Collaborative, Jill. And Laura and Liberty, are you sharing the task force on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is that?
I think we were going to try and
maybe.
figure out whether it could be more than one person, right?
Okay. Did you want me to find out for you? We can ask
Yes.
Robin, who happens to be sitting here.
I was just going to say, I think Robin can respond right away to that.
Yes, I'm happy to do so. Hi, everyone. So yes, we'll take any members that are interested in the community. So yes, absolutely. It doesn't have to be just one representative from the school committees.
Oh, good. Great. Fantastic news. And right now, I am sitting on behavioral health, and I am asking Joan, who shares my passion for that subject, to take that on. So we'll sort of share it. If she can't make a meeting, I'll go to it for sure. But for now, at least, I'm trying to step back just a tiny bit. And Joan, you are also going to central office meetings, yeah, budget meetings. I am the warrant authorizer. Did we choose an alternate just in case I can't crawl to my tablet? I don't know how that would happen, but it's a matter of e-signing a document or two every 2 weeks or so, from what I can gather. Would anybody like to say they will be the alternate? Great, thanks, Laura. Okay. And then negotiations, I did go to the meetings that we have had. I'm happy to stay on that. If somebody's dying to do negotiations, I'm equally happy to hand it over. Don't all volunteer at once. I hate when you guys do that. Okay, I'll hold on to it for now and I'll reopen it again in the spring when we,
I think I can't because of a conflict of interest.
okay, that's right, you can't. Okay. That's a good point. I knew that. Okay. As disordered as that is, I think I've covered everything in my report. I apologize for taking so long with it, but I'm glad we have this finished. And Brooke, would you like to continue with the superintendent's report?
I would be happy to. Happy New Year, everyone. It's nice to see you all. So I'm going to speak to a couple of these things, and I'm going to have Dr. Millen speak to the PD component because she's really the expert. She was the one who really orchestrated January 3rd, which was just a wonderful success. So she'll speak to that in a few minutes. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. The Nauset High School principal search has begun. We have posted the position for a couple of days now. We've got a timeline that Dr. Millen and Joanna Hughes worked on, and I've done some tweaking to. I felt it was too long, so we went back and we've had another look at it. In essence, what we're looking at doing is advertising throughout the course of most of January, and then the end of January into February, we'll be doing the process. And we sent a note out today to the staff, to the high school staff, to apprise them of the process that we're taking. And we've got something that we'll be sending out to the community likely tomorrow that just gives some details so that everybody kind of knows exactly what's going on. We have had applications already. We've received several applications already. So it's an exciting process. I don't think anybody ever likes change, and so change is hard, and change is hard here as well. But we wish Dr. Salser the very best as he goes on to the next part of his life journey, and we thank him so much for everything that he brought to Nauset Regional High School. The process will include surveying of stakeholders, of course. We're looking for a well-rounded search group. You'll see us go back out after that. There'll be in-depth interviews. And a recommendation, of course, will be coming forward from the search committee, probably about mid-month to late month of February. We're hopeful to have a final announcement for the public, as I say, just right around the end of February or early March, depending on how quickly the process progresses. So that's that with regards to the Nauset High School principal search. Of course, budgets, you're going to see yours tonight as we start to lay it out. Giovanna and I have been meeting with all of our principals, and of course, we also want to acknowledge the work of Giovanna's assistant director, Jim Nowak, who's just a really positive asset to our team as well, and is actively involved in the whole process. The timelines and locations of various presentations of the budgets are posted on the website, and we hope that the committee and community will recognize both the efforts put forward by the leadership team and the uniqueness of developing a budget at this time while we're still in the middle of COVID. It's been a real challenge for us, but I feel really good as I'm seeing it start to flush its way out. We've had a lot of meetings with administrators. I feel, Giovanna, you may want to jump in on this too, but if I've missed something, but I feel that we've asked some really difficult questions. I feel very good about the process. It's been very transparent. So I feel that we're very prepared to move forward with the first presentation tonight. Would that sum it up, Gio, from your perspective?
Yes. And we're always doing the best that we can in the best interest of the students of the district.
Mm-hmm. Students continue to drive, and programming continues to drive, the budget process and the needs and the resources. We want to make sure that everybody has what they need in place in order to move it forward. And of course, a strategic plan is still the key driver for that. And I know that Dr. Millen will probably allude to that tonight as well when she talks about the PD. With regards to whether we put a note in here, because of course the weather is completely unpredictable. We never know, and it's one of those things that you think, like last week was such a perfect example when all of a sudden you're thinking, are we going to get 1 inch or we're going to get 4? And then all of a sudden it was 4 to 6 or 4 to 8. And you just really, it's just so unpredictable. And I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that our chiefs are so good about staying connected. Your police chiefs are so good about staying connected with me. And, I think the chief from Wellfleet said, Brooke, I know what I think we're going to get here, but I don't know about Brewster. I think, so it's just, so you make the best judgment that you can based on the knowledge that you have. And then quite frankly, at that point in time, I thought, boy, I sure hope the snow comes. Like, I sure hope it falls like it's supposed to fall, because I just closed it. That's now 4 snow days will have used up. So you hope that you're making the right decision. But I am so grateful to our community members and safety partners who help support the decision-making process. So we want to give a shout out to them too. So of course, we're hoping for only sunny weather between now and the end of the school year. No more snow days is what we're hoping for. So in a nutshell, that's it. But I am going to ask Dr. Millen to just speak to professional development, because we had a really special day on January 3rd. So Robin, if you can speak to that, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. Again, it's Robin Millen, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment for the district. So on January 3rd, we had a professional development day for our teaching staff. So our educational assistants had a full day professional development for their contract in November. So they were welcome, but this was primarily for the actual Unit A staff. So we focused again at the professional full day development to give a selection of offerings. It's really important to us that we're differentiating the offerings for the educators that are in our district. So we had a catalog, and I believe there were 16 or 17 choices of sessions that the staff could take. There was one mandatory session, which was with our continued work with Dr. Khalees Warnham, who is our diversity, equity, and inclusion capacity building researcher that we're working with. She was here in November. In the meantime, she's worked with administrators in December. She came back in January for the staff, and she'll be back in the spring again for a wrap up of the year and for us to make some decisions on goals and objectives in that area going forward. So the day was set up a little bit different than the November day, because I also felt it was really important that we incorporate a lot of our local experts in the areas of our strategic plan that we've been focusing on. So equitable learning, community wellness, goals, feedbacks, and goals, progress, and feedback, and then positive relationships. So we had people come in like Jacob Stapleton from the Children's Cove, who did a session on understanding child abuse and reporting systems that our educators are required mandated reporters and need to know this information. So they came in. Jeannie Bork came in from the VNA. She does the VNA, believe it or not, does a wonderful organizational for any organization out there on grief, loss, and then self-care, which we always want to do proactively, not reactively, and provide staff some support for that area. Mr. Darius Combs came in from the tribe, from the Wampanoag tribe. He did a wonderful historical session called 13 Moons. And then he also talked about some of the connections that our staff can have with the outreach and the cultural council in Mashpee. In fact, the architecture teacher at the high school is already connected with him, because they were talking about doing the Wampanoag housing, and then what that means in the culture, in the architecture world in our classrooms. So they're already connected. So there was a lot of great connections made there. And then Dr. Cynthia Okolo, who happens to be one of our grandparents that is raising a child here in our system, and she is actually a Michigan State University professor and an expert in universal design learning and technology and accessibility of technology. She's also working with us on the other side to help us with diversity and equity inclusion, and giving us some research background on that as well. So we also had invitations out to the what do we call it? Human Rights, the Cape Cod Human Rights Commission, who couldn't make it this time, but I did meet with them today and starting to make some of those connections. So there was a variety of offerings, well, all situated right in our strategic plan and our goals and objectives for the year. So it came up very well. We collect feedback every time we have a session. Overwhelmingly, we had good feedback, and we'll take what feedback wasn't so good and we'll make the decisions for the future sessions. So that was our day.
Great. Thank you, Robin. The only other thing that I would bring up too is that, and it's not on here, but just to let everyone know that the process continues to be ongoing for the Nauset Regional High School building project. And we've got things happening almost every day. And I know that Gio was off Cape today doing some business for it. And that just continues to move along very, very well. If you ever want to jump into one of those meetings, they're very informative, and you can watch the process in real real time, as we talk about everything from floor coverings to epoxy on the walls, to roofing, to grounds, to you name it. Every part of that new project is being discussed right now. It is exciting. So if you get a chance to jump on one of those meetings, because they're all online right now, they're all through Zoom, and it's just fascinating to see the pictures, see the data points, and watch our engineering company and the OPM work it all through. Just fascinating. So if you get a chance to, you might want to consider the opportunity of jumping in on one of those. And so that's it for the superintendent's report tonight. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you
Any
both
questions?
very much, Brooke and Robin. Thanks a lot for keeping us so well informed. And we have our principal's report, Mary Beth. My pen is out of ink. Can you believe it? I'm just gonna go. Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome, Joan. Lovely to have you. It'll be fun on school council too. You'll really enjoy it. I just wanted the second part under academic in my report is the National Assessment of Educational Progress. The NAEP assessment in our grade 4 was selected. It was supposed to happen last year, but of course it did not. And so it is happening this year. And I just want to let you know that there is a letter that was scripted by NAEP. And of course, we just add our information to that template. And that will be going home to all grade 4 families on the 27th of this month. And it gives them a couple of weeks if they choose to opt out, or if they have any additional questions, that they can reach out and speak to me about that. I already had a phone conversation with our NAEP representative, and we have a second one on the 13th. So I believe that's Thursday. And there was an awful lot to prepare for it. So, you know, it's sort of reminiscent of MCAS in a way, in terms of the infrastructure and all of the sort of paperwork requirements that had to be done. So we will see how that goes. I've never been through the NAEP assessment before, and grade 4 will be participating unless a parent opts out. And the only other thing is that because we had the snow day on Friday, under our school events on one of our last pages, our second page, our 100th day of school is now Friday, February 18th. So any questions?
I will be interested, Mary Beth, and once you've had a look at the NAEP test, how they differ, you know, what from the MCAS tests in terms of.
Well, one of my questions to them is, I'm not quite sure what type of data I will receive after that. I know it goes into the, what do they call it? The US report, school report card, something like that. So I'm not quite sure what I will get back, but it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, right.
And it's just one day. It's ELA or math.
Right.
And it's about 90 minutes for the test. They bring everything. So we just need to provide electrical outlets.
And we have that.
It'll be interesting. What's that?
We have that.
We have them.
You're all set.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Mary Beth. And while you have the floor, unless there are questions, would you like to give us the playground update, which will probably be the high point of this meeting, gang? So
Can I just ask a question about it?
yes, Joan, sorry.
Mary Beth, is there accommodations for kids with special needs? For the
Yes,
NAEP
they still have the same accommodations that they have for MCAS.
Great, okay. That's it for me.
Great question. So as you know, I presented to the select board back on December 7th. That was the 6 p.m. meeting. And Laura Baghetti, thank you for being present for that. And then the next morning was sort of the big presentation that accompanied our application to the Wellfleet CPC. And a few days later, I received an email from Gary Sorkin, who is the chair of the CPC. And it says that, don't know if you've heard, but we managed to allocate $315,000 in CPA funds for the playground. You and your folks did a good job on the proposal and the presentation. It had strong support across our community, committee. Still needs to go through select board and town meeting, and the money won't be available until July, but you're on your way. So yay. So what I wanted to show you, Arlen, if you don't mind putting that document up. So to do all of the playground, what I had shared, can you turn it?
I don't know. Can I turn it? Let's see.
So to do the entire project, it was $385,000. And one of the first meetings that I had with the CPC, they were asking, well, what would it look like if you did it in phases? And so I went back to Joe DeFore, who is the rep for O'Brien and Sons, who we will be using. That's okay, Arlen. We are using as our vendor. And so I just highlighted what he had shared. So the biggest section there at the very top of your screen, that has all of the prime components. And of course, those are all the components that were selected within our surveys for students, staff, parents, and stakeholders. So phase one, if we're going to break it out into phases, of course, in the end, it will cost more. So if we're able to do the entire project, it's $385,000. If we have to break it out over phases, it could potentially cost about $411,000. So one of the questions that was asked of the CPC was, well, if you had to do just 2 phases, what would that look like? So I went back to the surveys to see, well, where were the components that were the most preferred? So of course it was phase 1 that's at the top of your screen, which is most of the climbing equipment and the ADA compliant equipment for sensory needs for special ed students. And so to just get that, it's approximately $265,000. The other big ticket item, or the component that was really wanted, were the swings. So I don't know if I'll be able to scroll down. Can you scroll down? Just so you can see phase 2 are the swings at $70,000. Yes, the green, those are the swings. The one in the middle, that pink, that's phase 3, and that's at $76,000. That is what's called a zip cruise. And so it has 2 bays, or, think of a zip line. And so one of the zip line bays has a pod seat for special education students that would need that type of assistive technology. And the other would be sort of like a T-bar that kids could either stand on or they could sit on to be able to traverse from one side of that zip cruiser to the other. So we looked at, again, the surveys. And so phase 1 and phase 2 brought us in at the $315,000 when we gave the initial presentation. And again, the phase 3 would be the $76,000 would be if we were able to raise funding for that. Again, breaking it out into phases brought it to $411,000. So part of the PTA's goal was to be able to raise the remaining funds. So to date, we have the $315,000 from CPC that's allocated, that again has to go through town meeting. But to date, we have in donations $48,275. And PTA will be contributing, depending on what their numbers look like towards the end of February, $10,000 up to $17,000. So we're doing a final push with our campaign to fund the remainder. which would be roughly just under $12,000. So if we are unable to complete all 3 phases and there are monies left over, we just didn't get to roughly the 76,000. Those are funds that the committee would use for the natural component pieces that we want to put into the playground area as well. And one of those things is we would like to put in a small orchard. And we would do that through an organization called Retree Us. And that is out of Maine, and they work with schools to plant orchards. And I came to know about this from my administrative assistant, Laura Hansen. Her stepson was a student at 4Cs, and he created an agricultural committee and was the president of that committee. And his cousin is part of the Retree Us organization in Maine. And that became his sort of senior project. And so last spring, they were able to plant roughly 10 citrus trees at 4Cs, and he has graduated, but the program is going to continue. And so, you know, if we were able to incorporate that into our playground, I think that would be a wonderful thing for our kids to be able to learn about the cycle, incorporate that into our science and agricultural lessons. And also I will be working with Bob Bennett from the AmeriCorps organization. And he is going to support me in submitting an application. So they will provide the workers and the tools so that we can create natural STEM interactive play equipment for the students. We would also like to put a labyrinth in, and these are all things that we've talked about as a playground committee. Put in a labyrinth for kiddos, and maybe even there is a bit of a hill on the playground to put in maybe a small little amphitheater that's built into the natural surround. So those are some of the ideas that we have been talking about as a committee. And so depending on if we're able to do the entire project for $385,000, or if there's funding that remains that we're able to now add those natural elements to the playscape. Those are our plans, but we're very excited. We're very proud of the work that has been done. We're amazed by the donations that have come in and the support that we hear nearly every day. When donations come in by mail, often there's a lovely note or a lovely letter of just wonderful support, and we could not be prouder.
Thank you, Mary Beth. That's a wonderful news and very, very exciting. I just want to add to that. I did speak to Bob Bennett because I realized we know the same person. I know that never happens out here, but he is very, very excited to be working at the school. It's just
And I have
right
to
up his
thank
alley.
Jill. She connected Bob and me. So we had a wonderful conversation, and he is taking some classes at 4Cs for early childhood education. So when I told him about the Retree Us and to look into that at the school, he was very excited to do so.
Fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great. Thanks so much for sharing. all of
Thank you, Arlen.
And school committee handbook. And are you taking that? Wonderful.
I can take it. If you would like to start, I'm happy to have that, but I can just take the lead on this as well to just kind of do a broad stroke overview with it.
I will say something very short, and that is that as a new chair, I was delighted to have the time to really go over this. And I kept finding things that were new to me And I also want to say that Brooke was so patient with me because at our policy committee meeting, I kept stopping everybody and asking questions such as, well, what if, or I didn't know, how do we do that? And I just have to say it was a wonderful learning experience for me. And I think it's great that you took this on. So thank you.
Thank you. So I will just do a broad stroke overview if that's okay, Martha. And before I do that, and Arlene, I'll get you to bring it up for in a second, but just before we do that, if I could just make a quick comment. I'm looking back at the playground, and Mary Beth, I could not be prouder of you. Honestly, I know how much work you have done. I know the background efforts that have gone into this. I know the planning sessions, all of that, and you didn't say it like this, but I was thinking as you were saying, I wonder if she's going to say it like this. It's almost like writing another dissertation. When you do those types of grants, they become a part of your soul. I mean, you have the paperwork all over, and you did something in this truncated time that to me was just beyond amazing. And I just think you deserve a lot of credit for it. And I think the community, Wellfleet, needs to feel such pride that people have stepped forward, like in such a short time. Like as you said, December 7th, I thought, think of how much has happened between December 7th and January 11th. It is phenomenal. And it's almost like the playground has gone from this little tiny germ of an idea to here it is. And it's phenomenal to watch from the outside in. And so hats off to the community. The generosity is just amazing. And Mary Beth, you've just done an amazing job with this. So thank you to you and everyone around you who's making that playground become reality.
And again, special thanks to Dr. Millen as well, who really had a wonderful template that just gave us direction where to go and what to be sure to include in the application process. So in the committee, there are 16 of us, and everybody brought a different lens and with great enthusiasm. So thank you.
Very, very exciting. It's going to be so exciting to see that start and just realize itself and over the next couple of months. So very exciting. So thank you for that. So I do want to shift to the handbook for half a minute. And normally you think maybe handbook might not be exciting, but for superintendents, it's very exciting topic to discuss. So thank you for your kind words, Martha. And I just want to kind of go over a bit of the background, the contextual component and how it came to be where it is. So I would say in conversation with Martha in watching some of the policy subcommittee work and such, and realizing the number of new members that were coming into our various district committees, I was looking for a through line. I thought, what's a through line that can support all of our new committee members as they come on board? And I had seen other school committee handbooks out there, or even been involved in helping to create some of them. So I gathered about 6 or 7 of them, and I scattered them all across my desk and started to pick and pull what I thought were the best pieces of them. And so I had a draft, and Arlene, in a few minutes, I'll ask you to put it up and I'll go through it really quickly, but not just quite yet. So I picked and pulled what I thought were some of the key salient points that school committee members might need to know or should know. I had one of the handbooks had a really nice, I thought, really nice narrative about this is who we are, this is how we operate, this is the type of respectful environment we're looking to create. And there was just a really nice narrative that I read, and I thought, I think that really sums up how I think we think as Nauset Public Schools. And so then, so I created a whole draft, and then I sent it out to a couple of stakeholders, some of our school committee friends, and said, have a look at this and tell me what you think. And so I got some feedback, and then I took a look at it, and I thought, you know what, I think I'm going to do a whole redraft of this. So I took a look at it and I brought it back. I thought, no, I think I can make this more specific to Nauset. So I brought it back in, and I started to go through our policy handbook, and I started pulling out what I thought were the salient policies that people needed to know about, because that also told the story and helped to lead down a pathway. So as I was starting to build this, I put this into a Google Doc, and Arlene then was very helpful, because I started to say, well, wait, can we look at this policy? Can we check that policy? We were doing all kinds of cross-referencing of the different policies and what I felt needed to be included in there the most. Some we looked at some policies that said, no, that doesn't make sense. It might be a nice add, but really wanted to keep it succinct and to the point. And so then we started talking about adding hyperlinks and said, okay, what could this look like if we just did a hyperlink directly to this or that? And then somebody had said something, I think it was somebody on the policy committee said, well, I wonder what the lines of communication, like, what do the channels of communication look like? If somebody comes to you and says something, how do you know where to go? So I thought, okay, let's take a look at that. So then we had a template that Arlen and I started to look at. And then Arlen said, well, wait, I think I can make this better if we do X, Y, and Z. So she took all of that information, then started to play with it to create these lines of communication that I thought were very, very helpful as we worked our way through it. And then, of course, at that point in time, then we brought in Dr. Millen and said, well, can you have a look at it and tell us what your thinking is and give us some perspective. And then I felt that we had a really nice document to move forward to the policy subcommittee. The reason we sent it there was because there are so many policies in this particular document. And so it made sense for them to take a look and say, okay, does this capture everything a new school committee member would need to know? They felt that there were a couple of little gaps, and I'm going to show you those in a minute here too. And so they went back and crafted a couple of paragraphs that we've since interjected and embedded in there as well. So I think that it's about ready to go back out to you. If it hasn't already, I think it's there. I think the exciting thing for me now is that this will be able to live on your the front page of your website moving forward. And as policies and such change, it's a living document. You'll be able to make those changes in real time and keep it current moving forward. And so it's going to be there ad infinitum, in essence, for any new school committee members that come on, and or seasoned school committee members that need to go back and say, how do we deal with that? It should all be there. So it's a nice template. So I'm very excited about it. Arlene, can you just put it up now? I will go through it very, very quickly though, because I know we've got some other important work to do here. And we're just going to scroll down. Yeah, it's, you know what, when I look at that table of contents, I don't know how many times we've revisited that table of contents because you can see that it kind of grew. So I'll have you go through to the first section. Thank you. So right there in the introduction too, you can see that a lot of this, was my crafting, but then I brought in different pieces of there's the chapter 70 piece so that you've got your actual legal definition of what a school committee member does, the work that they do. I'll just have you kind of scroll down. It talks about MASC in there and the fact that, the charting the course is mentioned in there. So there's some, and then from there we went into the strategic plan and what are the key goals for our school district under not the umbrella of non-set public schools, and where are we headed with our goals. And so yeah, just go back up a little bit, please. Yeah, just go down to the next page now. Thank you.
I keep losing it. Is it gone?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It keeps jumping out and going back into, yeah. So maybe we won't have you go back. We'll just have you go forward slowly. And we'll see what happens.
All right, next
Yeah,
page.
very slow. Yeah, stop there. I think one of the things too we wanted to do is because a lot of people say, well, exactly what is Union 54? What is, and how does that look? And if you're not used to this, it is something that's brand new that you want to kind of take a look at. So that's what it's in there. And the next section, school committee operating protocols. This is where I was talking about a narrative about who are we, what do we represent, how do we conduct business, how do we interact with each other. I'll get you to keep going slowly. And basic just expectations. The limits of power, I think one of the reasons, and again, that's pretty much standard everywhere, so that everybody knows exactly what is, and I'll get you to stop there. What does a school committee member have in terms of power and influence when they're outside of that group versus inside that group? And this kind of lays it all out. When I was talking about our vision, core values, and goals, this I took, of course, obviously, right from our mission statement. This is our vision. When I went to look back, it seems to me that there are a couple of things that came into play with the vision. So I kind of pushed it all together. And so quite a bit of this is actually taken from our strategic plan. I'll get you to keep going forward. There are core values, and then the goals. And these, of course, are the goals that you'll hear Dr. Millen talk about over and over again, because we're always focusing on these goals as is Nauset Public Schools. And then you start to get into that section right there. Thank you, to stop there. And this is where it starts to go back after your specific policies. And so you can see that you can there's a hyperlink there that you can go on and connect with, but then everything's kind of laid out. All the key salient points are laid out for you in these sections. I'll get you to scroll right through these policies. And these are all in your policy handbook, but they are all basically what you've accepted previously as these are our core values of who we are, and in Paul as it's written and articulated in policy. You can see, you can just stop there. There's executive session explained in there. There's interactions in the public. There's communications. That's what the section is right here. There's a lot of specificity, but I don't think too much, because when I took a look at it, a couple of handbooks that I was working with, I thought almost had too much information, and then it just kind of becomes boring and not the type of document that you're looking for. So we try to keep it succinct. I'll get you to keep going forward. There's electronic messaging to school committee members, constituent complaints. Yeah, we'll just keep you going. Stop there. Stop there. Yeah. There's the additional information. And so this is some of the additional information that your policy subcommittee put in place about budget planning, approval, and monitoring. I'll get you to scroll down a little bit more. Warrants and negotiations, and the superintendent's contract, collective bargaining, and hiring responsibilities. And there you've got your additional resources. There's the open meeting law, which of course, I don't know, 100 times in a year, we go back and forth with to make sure that we're always following it. There is your full policy list. Down below, you've got your the policy manual that's online. There are the channels of communication I was speaking to earlier, an open meeting law guide, executive session quick reference guide, and that's basically where it says these are the reasons you can go into executive session and nothing else. Of course, the NRSE weighted vote, Robert's Rules of Order, just a quick FAQ, and of course the strategic plan. And I'll get you to get out of there. Thank you so much, Arlen. I appreciate doing that. So that's in a quick nutshell where we've landed with this. And so it's my hope, I believe that the policy subcommittee the other night is recommending that this goes forward down to joint committee. And so probably one of our upcoming joint committees, either at the end of this month or into February, you'll see us bring this forward. But it's very exciting to see, again, something that was really just a germ of an idea, like I was talking about the playground, a germ of an idea to here it is. And so it's exciting to move it forward. So I don't know if you've got any quick questions on that. You probably haven't had a chance to look extensively through it or anything like that if you've got it, but happy to entertain questions. Jill?
Just a comment. I'm so pleased with this opus you did. It's so well organized. The topics are clear. It's concise. I totally agree with you about sometimes handbooks have way too much information. You know, we're all busy people, and it's just a very wonderful reference. And I like your links too for the additional resources. As somebody who does review a lot of handbooks in my work, I mean, what a delight. I'd like to come across yours.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for pulling this together. It will be a wonderful resource now and the way it can be amended to.
Yeah, it can be that, just that living document on the
Right.
website. So, yeah. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts? Thank you, Laura, for the thumbs up. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Martha. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see it and to watch people's expressions as you're presenting it too. So well done. I think that the other thing that we wanted to talk about was actually, it sort of came from this, and that was school committee email communication. And one of the things we've been talking about in various groups that I've been in on, and certainly in the policy committee, is the reason that we use our NOSIT schools email when we're communicating with each other. And the biggest reason is that it's for our own protection. Our emails, I never knew this, our emails are sent up to central office pretty much automatically, Brooke? Or they're put in a big web cloud.
Right.
Actually.
So,
And
yeah,
so
that's
they're
exactly right.
accessible. If anything comes up, any questions, any issues come up, they're there and they can be reviewed. If we use our NOSIT, when we use our own NOSIT accounts, that's the only account that goes up there. However, if anything happened, and let's say I was using my ridiculous Moon Molly 3 account, which basically I use for shopping, but I was also using it for NOSIT business. If anything happened, if there was any kind of legal question and they needed to have access, they subpoenaed access, I had to give them access to my email account, it would be that account. Wherever I'm using, whatever I'm using for my NOSIT emails, which means I lose all of the privacy. Everybody knows what size shoe I wear. Any of that happens. So we're asking people to use only NOSIT account for NOSIT emails. And I know a lot of us have many accounts for different things. I certainly do. I have 3, I have 4 actually, but I never use the 4th one. It's just really for everybody's protection. And it's also easier for people like Arlen, who's sending group emails out, and there are 3 different email addresses listed. There are a number of reasons, but I think just to keep everything above the board and accessible in a safe way is the way that we're hoping to go as a district, actually. So if you don't have a NOSIT email account or it's not working, let me know and I will get in touch with Eileen Bellistock to help you set that up. And Brooke?
Sure. Can I speak to this topic as well, Martha? If you're
Yes,
okay with
please.
that? So I want to be clear, like when I think that way back in the day, you know, when emails first started coming out, I don't think it was quite as big a deal, but I remember the first time where I saw somebody have all of their emails called in. And I was saying this to Martha the other day. I was having lunch actually with the Commissioner of Education in Maine. And she turned to me and she said, "You won't believe what happened, Brooke." She said, "I just had 100% of my emails called in." And that's the first time, then that's going back a lot of years. And sure enough, there had been basically an FOI at that point in time done for all of her emails. So I think the thing that we always need to realize is that all business that's done within the school district is public business. And so it's all open to public scrutiny. So you can do an FOI, or a parent can do an FOI on your emails at any point in time, and you have to cough them up. And so you really need to make sure that you are above board, that you keep it clean, separate from your professional and personal lives. You really need to. And it is nothing for me to see something come across my desk that basically puts a freeze on somebody's emails. That has happened so often in the last 5 to 10 years, where all of a sudden something's going down somewhere and the police need access to it, or the AG's office needs access to it, or somebody needs access to it, and immediately there's a freeze. But I also want to go back after a comment that Martha had made earlier. So when you use a school committee or any type of NOSIT email address, it's all housed in Google. And so within Google is Google Vault. And the Google Vault is basically where every single email from the school district is tracked. And you can't dismiss any email. You cannot, I think people think that they can just delete it and it will go away. You can't do that. Google tracks everything. And so if we get, again, very often, I've seen this happen many times, where I get a subpoena in, or I get a letter from a lawyer in that says, you know, we need to put a hold on emails from, pick a day. It could be from 10 years ago. It could be 10 months ago, 10 weeks ago. We have to protect all of those emails, which is why they go into the Google Vault and they're housed inside of Google Vault. So I do think sometimes that there's misunderstanding out there, and people think that they can just press delete and that email would be deleted, and that's not the case. But for school committee members especially, you really need to keep that business and personal life separate. So I can't stress that enough. I would say that in every district I have been in, that is the first thing that is said to new school committee members coming on board is, you know, here's your package and here's your new email address, you know, for all things business or NOSIT or whatever school districts it's in. So I will tell you, I've seen some real messes because school committee members have chosen to use their personal emails, and it's a very uncomfortable, awkward place to be in if somebody is pressing a subpoena forward on it, or is doing an FOI on it. It's not someplace you want to be. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So I'm assuming, is it safe to assume you all do have NOSIT email addresses? You do not. I will set one up for you, Jill. Okay. I will do that tomorrow. Thank you.
It does protect you, honestly.
Yeah.
It really does.
And Laura?
So I kind of going back. So does that mean our NOSIT emails are published? And because remember that?
No, they're not.
They actually?
They're
Go
not
ahead.
published. They are not
not,
published.
okay.
No. No, they're not published. They're just archived. I think that's the best word to use. They're just archived, and they're just archived because in case something comes along and somebody needs to see them. It's more to be honest with you, I've seen it more for legal purposes than anything else. But I would tell you the number of FOIs I've seen in I would say the last 5 to 7 years, FOIs for school committee member emails has been through the roof.
But if, Laura, one of your children disappears mysteriously, they can go after my email and then they'll know who took the child. We had a silly exchange today, so I offered to take her kids.
I accepted.
I expected to see 1 or 2 or 3 children on my doorstep today, but it didn't happen. Okay, well, moving on with that then, I think we're up to reports, and we can start with Jill, the collaborative report. Was there a
Okay,
meeting?
last month, the collaborative meeting was before our meeting, so we're good for this month. I have a collaborative meeting tomorrow.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Your reports are great.
Thank you.
Liberty, were you able to go to the last PTA meeting?
I was not able to, but I will start checking in with Charity after the meetings if that's helpful. At least I'll have something then.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be helpful, sure. Yes,
Martha, I just want to make sure that we do the expenditure report and the budget component before we get to, well, you may want to do it out of order, which is.
no, that was my mistake. I have my notes for the agenda on a tiny little card and I didn't see it. It's little. I'm so sorry, Mary Beth, please go.
You just extended your meeting longer than you thought.
We really need to do this. Mary Beth, you have the floor.
Would you like me to go first or do the expenditure report first?
Why don't we do the expenditure report? Can you tell I'm not good at numbers?
Okay.
Giovanna, I apologize. Go ahead.
No need to apologize. We'll go directly to page 8 of the expenditure report, please. The prior month balance was $130,035. We spent or encumbered since last month's reporting $5,883, leaving a balance of $124,152. There were various expenditures in various line items, but I will just highlight the expenditures that exceeded 1,000 and above. So on page 4, towards the middle of the page, line item 4031, contracted services, computers and devices. We spent or encumbered $1,080 since last month's reporting, and that's based on needs of the building for computers and devices. Moving on to page 6 of the report, and the middle of the page, line item 4050, overtime custodial. We spent or encumbered $1,480 since last month's reporting, and that's due to need based on coverage for absences and additional time required to clean the building. And that is my report, short and sweet. Any questions?
It's only tangentially related, but I wonder about the absences in terms of custodians, other staff members and faculty. How are we doing, Mary Beth, given the situation with COVID?
That's a great question. Given the situation, we're doing rather well. I'm happy to report that David Samuels, the head custodian, and I are interviewing an evening custodian applicant tomorrow morning at 8:30. So we're hopeful that it will bring some great respite to our 2-man custodial department, because David has been working many additional hours to get what needs to get done. Other than that, our student population and our staff population in terms of attendance has not been bad. You know, we'll just be watching the trend as time goes on. I did have to send out that we did have another positive case in the school. But with the vaccination status, it is not impacting as many people. So that's a real positive. And we'll just keep track of it. Claudia Cope-Croson, our school nurse, is absolutely amazing, and she has such a handle on it. And she was quite pleased when we met on Monday that our attendance, both staff and student, was pretty good.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Giovanna.
You're welcome.
And now, Mary Beth, you're on. I segued very well that time, you may notice.
So I did just a brief presentation, and I will highlight some of the noted increases and decreases within the budget. And I'm quite pleased with all that we're able to accomplish in this budget and for what the budget decrease is in the end. Wellfleet Elementary School believes that every child matters, is unique, deserves to feel safe, and has the capacity to learn. WES faculty and staff are dedicated to our mission to prepare each student to succeed in an ever-changing world by providing a rigorous academic program that integrates social, emotional, and global awareness. WES is also committed to the NASID vision to provide enriching, diverse, and innovative opportunities to prepare students to be lifelong self-directed learners and contributing members of society. By learning how to think critically, problem solve, and collaborate with others, students will be able to reflect on their learning, set goals for themselves, and persevere when facing obstacles in a complex world. We will foster a global perspective through authentic learning experiences, expansion of the traditional classroom beyond the walls of the school, and development of education partnerships and opportunities across the community, the United States, and countries worldwide. The proposed FY23 budget reflects the resources needed to accomplish that vision. The proposed FY23 West budget comes in at a 0.34% reduction. The draft FY23 budget maintains all current academic programs, interventions, and the free after-school childcare program. As a result of unanticipated retirements and resignations announced last spring and summer, most new faculty and staff were hired at a lower salary step, and one educational assistant position was for the 2021-2022 academic year only. In addition, West does not anticipate Cape Cod collaborative placements in FY23. Increases are noted in specific line items such as long-term substitutes, the salary for the school psychologist, increasing that position from 80% to 100% given our SEL needs, and replacement of obsolete instructional equipment. Substantial decreases are noted in line items such as educational assistant salaries, out-of-district tuition, and out-of-district transportation. Those are all reflected in this budget. Many line items do remain level funded. Increases and reductions in specific line items are noted. Account number 4018, substitutes long-term. I have increased that dollar amount, so it equals $12,000, which is a 100% increase in that line item. I do anticipate some parental leaves next school year. Account number 4028, instructional equipment. This is a line item that has always been zero. It is now at $32,000. So it's a 100% increase. And the reason for that, the select board, oops, pardon me. The select board, when we had met, had made the comment, which is an actual comment, that our instructional equipment really is an operational budget item as opposed to a capital improvement plan item. So I was able to add in the replacement of those obsolete technology pieces of equipment. That's instructional. So that includes things such as teacher and student desktops, laptops, hover cams, and 3 smart boards. Account number 4031, instructional technology. So that had increased by $6,245. And currently we use Eureka Math, and Eureka Math now has Eureka Math Squared. And that digital math curriculum provides now better resources and an easier platform for educators to navigate. So it really benefits not only the students, but the teacher as well. The next line item is 4037, and that is for our school psychologist. She was reduced a year ago to 80%, but again, given our SEL needs within our school, I would like to reinstate her to 100%, and that would be an additional $21,034. And the last increase that I wanted to note is line item 4064, and that's special education teacher salaries. And that increase is $32,564 or 28%. And the reason for that is that I had replaced a special ed teacher who had resigned with a more veteran teacher who came in at a higher salary step. And then I would like to note 5 budget reductions to the budget, and account number 4011 will start us off, and that's contracted services, non-instructional technology. So that would be at a savings of $5,272. And that savings is because of district-wide purchasing. So we got a discount with that. Account number 4019, salary ed assistance, that's a reduction of $19,083. And the reason for that is who we had back during the budget season last year as an EA, then with resignations and retirements moved into a teacher position. So that EA position was no longer needed. 4035 is the special ed out of district transportation. And we do not have any placements at the Cape Cod Collaborative. So there's 100% savings of $38,189. Our preschool tuition, 4088, has reduced by almost $29,000, and that's because of the decrease in preschool age enrollments. And the last reduction that I wanted to note is in line item 4098, and that is the special ed Cape Cod Collaborative tuition. Again, that's 100% savings due to not having any student that will be going to the Cape Cod Collaborative in FY23. So in summary, the regular day portion of the Wellfleet Elementary proposed FY23 budget increases by $109,303 or 5.24%. And the special education portion decreases by $118,966 or minus 15.35%. The total difference from the FY22 to the proposed FY23 West budget is minus $9,663 or minus 0.34%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments on this? Yes, Laura.
I might be like totally off and wrong, but I'm looking at the where the special ed substitute teachers at the rate. I thought those were it's at this piece of paper. I don't know if that helps. Those rates all were raised. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not I'm reading it correctly.
Are you referring to last year when the joint
Is
school
this the
committee
last year?
voted to raise salaries of substitutes? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Are you saying it's not reflected in the justification sheet?
Well, I guess what I'm saying, it's this sheet is
That's part of the justification. What page number is that?
7 of 9,
Okay.
4068 and 4071.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Are those rates correct?
That's your question. Okay.
Those are the rates that I had. I'm not sure if something was decided at a joint school committee meeting that I did not receive. So I don't know if that has to be amended.
Yeah, I don't know.
One
either.
is for substitute teacher and the other is for substitute educational assistant, both in special education, which would be the same rate in general ed as well.
See, I
So
thought those rates got all to the same, like they're different than these.
Then I can absolutely correct that for the next meeting.
Okay, and
Thank you, Laura.
again, it's just to
Yeah.
make sure it's all correct.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Laura, could you just send us the specifics on the specific lines, please, so we know exactly what lines you're looking at?
I have it, if that's helpful. I think it's from the section in the spreadsheet, starting at 4064, the substitute teachers and the substitute ed assistants. So that is 4068 and 4071, I believe. Is that right, Laura?
Then, so we'll go back and do a double check on that too. Laura, thank you very much for bringing that forward.
Yeah.
We'll do a double look.
Thank
Okay.
you.
That could be a very important catch, Laura. Thank you. Thanks. And for people who are newer to the school committee or even newer to the school system, Mary Beth is probably usually the very first person in the district to have her budget ready to go. It's never a surprise when we get to do it this early in the year. It's always such a pleasure, and it's always right on target. So well done, kudos. As usual.
Thank you.
Liberty, yes.
So what happens when you're under budget? Does that money just go into the next year and so you'll have more to kind of move around?
It does not.
Can we use it for the playground?
That was my follow-up.
Okay, no.
Yeah, no, actually, that's an interesting thought. I think that would be something, I think Liberty, what you're saying is, if there is room there for, I'm just going to play with numbers. I'm not saying these are the numbers, but I want to make sure that I'm thinking along the same lines that you're thinking. You're saying, well, if we knew, for example, we were down $10,000 and we knew that we needed $10,000 for just to finish that playground, could we add that line? Gio, the question is coming to you. Can we add that line to the budget so that we could finish that project off? Like, I mean, is that the kind of thinking you're having right now, Liberty?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a reason why you can't, but I'm just curious about it.
So Gio, do you want to take that?
You could add additional dollars to your budget. Typically, the town budget guidelines come in between 2.5% and 4%, including benefits. So that's something that the committee could decide to increase a line item for playground structures.
So I'm going to completely agree with Gio on this. I think that if that was something that you wanted to think about and reflect on and bring forward at the next meeting or whatever, might be something. I would also agree though, as Gio, you're going to have to take a look back and see how your own separate community runs, because they may say, well, actually getting back to exactly what Mary Beth said earlier about what's capital and what's just part of your general budget. So that would have to be something that's very specific to Wellfleet that you'd have to look into. But I don't think that there was any reason why you couldn't add if you wanted to.
Joan?
So let's say a family moves in with 2 special needs children, and one of them has to go to the co-op, or the collaborative, sorry, and needs transportation and those services. Where does that money beyond the state, the state, where does that money come from in this budget?
Giovanna?
Typically, when we have a situation like that, we try to cover those costs within the operating budget. So therefore, we would need to reduce some line items. In situations where we don't have the funds within the operating budget, we've exhausted all of our possibilities. For example, the use of circuit breaker funds, applying for extraordinary relief because of a situation like that with the state. Then we would go back to the town and let them know that we have a situation whereby we have a student that requires special services. These services will cost X, Y, and Z. We're able to cover X through the operating budget. However, we cannot cover. We're also looking at extraordinary relief, looking at circuit breaker funds, and we'll need X number of dollars to cover the cost for transportation as well as for the educational piece at the collaborative.
And I believe
You've
that
had that
actually
happen.
happened. That did actually happen a few years ago when Superintendent Conrad had to go speak to our town administrator. I think for that very reason.
It's a great question because it
Yeah.
happens frequently. So I think I'm really glad that you brought that question forward.
Usually a big ticket number. I mean,
It is.
Definitely. Thank you, Gio. And Mary Beth, your hand was up. You've been very patient.
Oh, no, these are great questions. But one of the other things too is that we want to also look at the ESSER, the federal funds, to see if we might be able to tap into some funds there. Dr. Millen had sent a note saying that there might be an opportunity through ESSER for funding for the playground as well. So that's another avenue to look at to fill that gap, so that we wouldn't have to put it into the operating budget.
And that's absolutely correct. That is something that we have been talking about and looking into. So thank you for bringing that up, Mary Beth.
I am happy to, if waiting until February, our February meeting to discuss this, will give us time to really do something reasonable with it before the budget has to be presented. I'm happy to put that on the agenda. I do know that the experience has been that our town has come back at us to us and said, this doesn't go on the capital budget. It really needs to go on the operating budget. They seem to take that pretty seriously. So I don't know what the impact would be of our trying to change it. But if people would like to, we can certainly try. We can, at least between now and February, make some forays by asking questions. Would people like that? Yeah. All right. I hope I remember what my notes mean when I look at them. And now we can start the reports unless any people have anything else to. Right. We did not have a report for the collaborative. We did not have a report for the PTA, and that's a good thing because we weren't supposed to have them yet anyway. Behavioral health is meeting at the end of January, the beginning of February, and the strategic planning group is also meeting later, I think again in February. There's nothing for negotiate. Yes, there is. Brooke and the union actually did come up with a memorandum of understanding or agreement about our COVID regulations, and it was passed, I would say, less than a week ago, perhaps, by the union.
The union has
so,
ratified.
yeah,
Yes.
and
we have to ratify now, but the union has ratified.
right. So we're all set to do that, and it's a good agreement, and it worked. I hope it worked. It worked. There was a lot of back and forth on that, though. There was a lot
of work. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think that I give so much credit to the union leadership too, because I think that they did a very good job. I think that they represented their leadership, their membership very, very well. And I'm very proud of our committee, because our committee, our subcommittee also picked up on some nuances that were very helpful to go back to look into further. So I think all the way around, I think the process itself played itself out exactly as you would want it to play out. So I feel that it was thoughtful, it was thorough. It feels very good. I'm so proud that the union has done the ratification, and now we have to do our job.
Yeah. The policy committee met in December, and we did, of course, as you know, review the school committee handbook. I'm not going to review it. We approved a policy that was really only for the region, only for the high school and middle school. It's a fraud prevention policy. It's strictly regional. So we don't have to take any action on it at this point, but I just wanted to keep you abreast of that. And we did talk about emails already. So I think that report is over. And school council did not meet. So based on that, are there any other reports I'm missing? Joan? Oh, central office?
One second. Central office budget. It was my first meeting. There was a gap. Anyone who knows more than, or was there or can contradict me, please do. There was a gap of 131,207. And because of ESSER, which I believe is a stimulus package, right? Federal stimulus package. Okay. They were able to move around and people money and close that gap. So there was not a gap. And it was just artfully done, as someone new first meeting watching this. Those of you responsible for moving numbers around, it was pretty remarkable.
Great.
And we'll give full credit to Gio on that because she did
That's
a
what I
great
was
job with
yeah.
us. Yeah, she did a great job.
It was
I
great.
was actually going to take a stab and say I bet it was Gio.
Yeah, yeah.
We
It was
tease her
not.
for her pixie dust.
So the central office budget, if I may, has not been finalized yet. We're waiting, and once that is approved and finalized, we'll make any adjustments on the operating budget because the Wellfleet Elementary School carries their portion of the central office costs. So we await until that budget is finalized and approved, and then we'll make the adjustment here as appropriate.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Joan. You jumped in with both feet. Well done.
Pleasure.
Okay. All right, so we are all set with our reports as far as I know, and my only question to you all, I have two things. Number one, if you are not going to make a school committee meeting, could you please let me know, just so we know if for any reason we're not going to have a quorum, we can act accordingly. The second thing is I'm wondering if anybody has anything for the agenda for next month. Okay, well, again, feel free to email me using your NOSIT email with any ideas you have, anything you think you'd like to discuss. Mary Beth, I am putting the school handbook on the agenda for next month, I think. Okay, great. Okay. And I will get in touch with the people in town hall about the budget and the playground, if that's okay with you, Mary Beth. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, and we need to approve the meeting minutes from last month, so.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from last month.
I just, there's one thing on the minutes from last month. I wasn't at last month's meeting, but it says that I was, so you may want to just delete me. I'm sure it's not a big deal, but.
No, I'll take that off. Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Would someone like to do that?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Jill. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Okay. And all those in favor? Okay, great. And a motion to adjourn. I don't know why I have this mad urge to run across the street to Moritz and have him adjourn us, give us a motion. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Nobody? You want to stay? Laura, thank you. Okay, and Jill, thank you. And I adjourn this meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.